Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, or whatever time it may be in your part of the world. My name is Mr. John Wayne, and I am a variety gamer. I play everything from the Fallout franchise all the way to the Soulsborne series. Welcome, everybody, to my live game review of The Ghost of Yotei. Hope you're all doing well. I know that I am. And in this review, I'm going to talk about all the graphics, the game lighting, the soundtrack or music, character story, side quests, etc. So to start the review, I'll talk about the graphics, what I thought of the graphics of Ghost of Yotei. I think they were pretty amazing. They did a really good job with the graphics. Everything looked very well done. Like they took their time and really polished the game graphically. Let's go ahead and talk about the lighting of Ghost of Yotei, and the lighting really wasn't bad. The lighting was actually really well done as well, and I think that goes hand in hand with the graphics. Lighting and graphics, if you have good graphics, you should definitely have good lighting, and from torches to dim lighted areas, it all felt very cohesive and meshed together very well. So for graphics and lighting, I think 2 thumbs up. For the soundtrack of Ghost of Yotei, I think it was absolutely amazing. Whether you were listening to the Watanabe soundtrack, there could have been a little more soundtracks when it comes to the Watanabe, but I understand that maybe they didn't have a lot of time, or maybe they didn't want to focus too much on that. But I thought it was amazing having that Samurai Champloo or the Cowboy Bebop lo-fi feels to exploring Ezo. I thought that was pretty awesome. And also for the soundtrack of Ghost of Yotei itself was really good. Even having Atsu play her shamisen was really nice, and getting different shamisen songs was really cool. I really enjoyed the music of this game. I think they did a really good job with the music. Okay, let's talk about the characters of Ghost of Yotei. I have to be honest, I didn't feel attached to any of the characters at all. Not Atsu, not Jubei, not even Kiku. I feel like the characters were written okay, but they were very bland and stale, and I didn't feel connected to them as much as I did in Ghost of Tsushima with Jin and all of that, or any of the characters in Ghost of Tsushima compared to Ghost of Yotei. Like Yuna, I connected with in her story, but not really as much with Atsu or Jubei or anybody, you know? So unfortunately, the characters for me fell flat, felt very bland, very safe. Like they weren't trying to really push the story too much. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the story of Ghost of Yotei. Number one, I didn't hate the story, but I didn't like the story. Or I don't even want to say I didn't like the story. I didn't love the story. I think they could have done a much better job at telling the story of Atsu compared to what they did with Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima hit so many points in the story that made you feel so many different ways. As Atsu, you never felt really invested into her story. I know that I posted a video a little bit ago about what they should have done, in my personal opinion, to make you feel more invested into Atsu as a character, and I still feel firm with that. This is a spoiler-free review, but I'll go ahead and give you a synopsis of what I think they should have done, and I'm not going to spoil anything. It's stuff that you will see within the first 10 to 30 minutes of the game. But you learn that Atsu is trying to take revenge on the Yotei 6. And she fights in South Ezo and over in the mainland, and she gets training there. I personally think that she should have been in Tsushima, the Tsushima island, as we already know about Tsushima Island and how Jin Sakai became the ghost of Tsushima. I think it would have tied the stories together, even though they're 300 years apart, but also it would have gave a sense of why she became a ghost, not some random mercenary that's seeking revenge for her family's death. I think she could have, as a kid, escaped, went over to Tsushima Islands, and you progressively play her as a kid and learning from Jin Sakai's predecessors. You could even say predecessors or whatever. And she learns to become a ghost, goes over to Ezo, and then seeks revenge on the Yotei 6. I personally would have liked to see that a little bit more, just to see Atsu have more growth to her. As in the story that they have right now, like, sure, she has some growth, but I never felt really invested into it. So the story fell flat for me. It wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't good. It could have been a lot better, and it has nothing to do with her being a female lead or anything like that. That did not bother me, not one bit, but I feel they definitely could have worked on the story a little bit more. Side questing, side quests, stuff like that, I felt they weren't bad. They weren't bad at all. I definitely enjoyed the side quests, and I enjoyed doing a lot of the side activities. They were more interactive than Ghost of Tsushima side content was. Like, for instance, following the wolves and being able to level up your wolf companion was pretty fun, because you would go through the fields chasing the wolf, and then you get to a camp and you would take out different enemies. And I thought that was really cool and interactive, and it made you feel like you were following your companion and helping them out on their journey too. So that was really cool, along with the foxes, following them and actually interacting with the world as you're going to do that little side activity. The shrines were fun. They were more interactive. It wasn't like, go here, grab it, and then you get a talisman. It was actually a little bit more platforming than it was in Tsushima. So definitely an upgrade on that. Okay, let's talk about combat. Combat was my least favorite part of the game. It was not bad, but it was not good. Not good. I typically play action games, action to action RPG games, from Stellar Blade to Devil May Cry, or even Souls games or Souls-like games. So when it comes to combat, I prefer action. And anytime that I was trying to parry or I would block, and I know I'm pressing the button, the game wasn't always registering it. So I'd take an unnecessary hit. And I wasn't playing on the hardest difficulty. I was just playing on the standard difficulty. I like to do that when I'm playing a game for the first time, just to get the basic experience from the game. And unfortunately, the combat, I feel they need to do a few tweaks and see what's going on in the back end, because I think there's something going on that when you're pressing certain buttons, the game's not registering it. And I know it's not my controller. This controller is practically brand new, so it's definitely not the controller, and it makes me sad, because I loved Ghost of Tsushima's combat, and I feel like there's some really cool aspects to the combat in Ghost of Yotei, from throwing weapons at enemies to having firearms now, and all kinds of cool things, and different little tools, ghost tools that you can use are really fun. But when it comes to like blocking and dodging, it just, something's going on in that back end, and maybe Sucker Punch should probably look into that, because I don't think I'm the only one that's having that issue in the game. Okay, now let's talk about gameplay. What did I think of gameplay as a whole in Ghost of Yotei? I think the gameplay was a lot of fun, but I didn't like the map layout, how it was segmented into different areas. Like, the map felt very chaotic. It didn't feel like you were in Ezo, like as a whole. You felt like, oh, maybe you can go off this way, maybe this way. You know, it like pushed you in such a weird way. And then I know in Ghost of, and I hate to keep comparing it to Ghost of Tsushima, but this is also the predecessor to Ghost of Tsushima, so I kind of feel obligated to do that. And I feel like in Ghost of Tsushima, you got the whole map. And sure, you had 3 different parts to the map, but you could go anywhere in that one big part. And then you go up to the next part of the island, and then you had both of those opened up. So it felt like it was one big island, you know, continent. We're going to say quotes because it's not really a continent. But you felt like, okay, I can go anywhere on here. As with Ghost of Yotei, it's like these small little pockets here, small little pocket here, and it's just like broken up in these weird ways, and it didn't feel good. Other than that, the combat was a bit meh, and the map was a bit meh. Everything else, really good. Definitely enjoyed music, all of it. I didn't run into any bugs, nothing. After I have said everything about Ghost of Yotei, what would I rate this game? I want to give it a 7 out of 10, but unfortunately, because it is a combat-based game, and the combat was lacking, I can only give it a 6. A 6 out of 10. And I don't think that's really a bad score, in my personal opinion, but it was just a middle-of-the-road game that was playing it too safe, not innovating as much as I feel they should have. The story was lacking. The combat was lacking. The world space was lacking with the map. The graphics were gorgeous. The music was beautiful. Both the Watanabe and the original soundtrack was awesome. The side quests were a lot of fun. The side activities were a lot of fun. But the combat and the story really drug it down. So I can only give it a 6 out of 10, unfortunately. So, with that all being said, I want to start by telling everybody thank you so very much for stopping by and watching the review. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button. Let me know why down in the comments below. Also, if you enjoy content just like this, be sure to subscribe, or don't. I don't know. I'm not your dad. Do whatever you want. And like always, everybody, have a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good night, or whatever time it may be in your part of the world. Mr. John Wayne, signing off.